woke up in what felt like a moving vehicle. I couldn't shake this feeling in my spirit that I wasn't meant to be there. And a woman comes up to me and she says, "We can't wait for you to meet him. He's so excited for you to be here." And she turns to like this area in the forest and she waves her hand over this area and a portal opens up.
Warning, ignorance isn't protection, it's deception. There's a war happening right now, beyond what your eye can see. The enemy is after your mind, your home, and your destiny. But the one who speaks truth is calling you higher. This is God's Voice Daily, where the supernatural gets real. And here is today's featured episode. Enjoy. Jaynie, welcome to God's Voice Daily. You were taken into another realm filled with portals, strange beings, and a deceptive forest, only to wake up and see a glowing amulet on your wall as God warned you what it all really was. So, Jaynie, tell me more.
Okay. Thank you for having me on, Vlad. I appreciate it. So just to preface this, I have been a believer for many years, and the Lord has blessed me with the ability to see many spiritual things. But this experience wasn't quite like the others. And it was quite jarring, but the Lord told me to tell this testimony because there are people that need to hear it. So here we go. This happened in February of this year. I had fell asleep like any other night, facing the wall. And when you lay down and you close your eyes, normally you can feel yourself kind of drifting into REM sleep. But this was different. I immediately woke up in what felt like a moving vehicle. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't really see anything because it was very dark around me, but I could see the silhouettes of the trees as we're like zooming past them. And I was very confused. I was like, what is going on? But aside from that, there were people that were speaking like very excitedly around me. It seemed like quite a bit of people were speaking, chattering and excited to go wherever we were going. And I was immediately confused because I'm like, where am I at and why am I here and what is going on? But I couldn't shake this feeling in my spirit that I wasn't meant to be there. But I just couldn't get out of it. I don't know how to explain it, but we eventually get to where we're going, apparently, because we come to a stop and everybody gets out. It was really dark, so I couldn't make out if it was a vehicle or not, or whatever the case may be. But we're all standing there, and a woman comes up to me and she says, "We can't wait for you to meet him. He's so excited for you to be here." And as soon as I get to say to myself, like, who's excited for me to be where? What are you talking about? Um, she turns to like this area in the forest and she waves her hand over this area and a portal opens up. And I'm like, I'm not even joking to you. I'm like thinking to myself, what the heck is going on? What am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, what's going on? Um, the portal opens and we're just all standing on the other side of it. And through there, I can see a completely different world. And it's casting like this glow around the people. So now I can get a visual of who is around me. And it's probably around 7, 8 people around us. And next thing I know, she grabs my arm, and she smiles and she pulls me through this portal. And I'm saying, I'm not joking to you, Vlad. It's like the climate completely changes. I'm in the midst of this beautiful, lush, green, whimsical forest. It was so strange and eerie to me. It was so beautiful, but there was something that I just could not put my finger on. It was deceptively beautiful. It was just green everywhere, and everybody's excited, and they're like running ahead of me and everything. And this woman has my arm, and she draws, and she's pulling me through, and we're going past this, what I would describe as like a hobbit house. It's like this round looking house, and it's on the side of a rock, on the side of like this big old boulder cliff thing. And uh as we're walking, these fairies they're not, they look like fairies to me, the what I could describe as fairies, but they're not like Tinkerbell or nothing like, they're nothing like that. They're like these weird long creatures with wings, and their like digits or like their hands look almost like Lego pieces. I don't know. It's so very odd to explain them. But they were super mischievous. They weren't sweet. They weren't nice. They were just mischievous and whispering in my ear, and just I was swatting them away like flies. It was very irritating and annoying. And I was thinking to myself, what the heck? What is going on? What is going on? Am I tripping? Like, what is going on? And so we're going past this little hobbit house looking thing. And on the back, there's this deck, and it overlooks a clearing in the forest. And on that deck is uh, a stone bench of some sort, table bench thing of some sort with moss all over it. And everybody's sitting there. And on top of this uh, uh, moss table looking thing is a spread of all types of weird looking delicacies. I don't know what it was. It was just like some food of some sort, and everybody's just sitting around having fun and whatever. So I'm sitting down, and this gives me like a chance to really take this in, because I'm like, I don't know what is going I don't know what is going on, but I know that I am not supposed to be here. My spirit does not feel settled. It feels very, almost, what I can describe is like I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I was not meant to be here. I just knew I was not meant to be here. So as I'm looking around and I'm taking everything in, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful green forest. And I see these beings. A lot of these beings, they look like sages almost. So what you would imagine what a sage would look like. They had these long robes with like exaggerated features. They had like these long limbs, and they were holding these weathered books in their hands. And their fingers were very long and exaggerated, and their noses very long and exaggerated, their beards very, very long and gray. And their hoods were over their heads, so I couldn't get a good look at the facial features. But they had these books in their hands. And there were these children, and this is a disturbing part, because there was these children and these people that were following these beings around, and they were teaching, the sage like creatures were teaching these kids what was from these books. And what was disturbing was they had the children had this awe and this reverence for these beings that I thought was very strange, because I felt like it should only be attributed to God. Like if we were looking at something, so as if you're looking at something that's so just with a very, just an overabundance of awe and reverence. And I was confused, because why? I don't know why that was. It was just disturbing to me, the way that they were uh, looking at these sage beings or whatever. And I was just like, wow, that's weird. But they were teaching from these books, and there were quite a few of them walking around with uh, certain people and things like that. But I got a download in my spirit. The the Holy Spirit was telling me that these were real people. These, it's not a figment of my imagination. These aren't just objects in a dream. These are people here, real people, real children coming here and gleaning from these beings, these beings, these sage beings. And so that was creepy. But as I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all of these things. And the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, ever experienced in my life, and again, like, I've seen all manners of spiritual things, but this was nuts. In the distance, I see a rolling green hill. It's a beautiful rolling green hill, and on that hill was dolmens. And I don't know if you know what dolmens are. They're like these druidic Nordic structures, stone structures that are used as like ritual high places. They're like they look like stone tables and things of that nature, very large stone tables that were used for ritualistic purposes. And in the in that was like or around that was this big Stonehenge looking thing. It looked exactly like Stonehenge, very large, very looming, very big. Um, and in the midst of it, I can't even describe. In the midst of it was this large pale horse that was probably I don't know if you've seen uh California palm trees, how tall those are. That was how big that horse, that pale horse was in the middle of this stone structure. And he was just neighing, he was just doing what he's doing. I could see all the muscles and it was just a beautiful, majestic looking creature just sitting there in the midst of this on this rolling green hill. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, what I'm like astounded. I'm like, am I just like what? What is going on? I gotta get out of here. Like I gotta get out of here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm here. I have to get out of here. Um. Anyway, I'm snapping out of that, and people around me are speaking to me. He's on his way. He's coming. He can't wait to see you. He's so happy that you're here. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck are they talking about? Who is happy to see me? Who is happy to see me? Why are they happy to see me? Why am I here? Who are you? Like what's going on? And as they continue to say this to me, I'm sitting here again. I'm feeling like I shouldn't even be in my skin right now. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling like just weird. I just feel weird in my spirit. And then all of a sudden, everything goes quiet, and I look up and I see the the people around me. They're looking off in the distance, and I follow their eyes, and man, this weird looking owl creature that looks almost like a Furby with these beautiful, big, amber looking eyes flies in on its ears. It's very strange. It was like a furry. I don't know if you know what a Furby is. Do you know what a Furby is?
No idea.
It's like this 90s um, uh, toy back in the day,
Hmm.
and it looked like a mix between like an owl and uh, just like a weird like weird like
Hmm.
toy back in the day. It was like a mix between like an owl with like exaggerated ears and big old eyes. That's exactly what it looked like. And it flies in, and I'm telling you, it flies in on its ears because the ears kind of uh was like the width of its body, so it flies in on its ears. And I'm telling you, this thing was probably 7 foot wide, and it flew in front of me, and it's telepathically speaking to me, but its beak is moving as well, but not in tandem with the words that it's speaking to me. And it says to me, it says, "I'm so happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're here. I'm glad that you've come to visit us. Uh, eat, be merry, like in it, just enjoy yourself." And I'm like, what the heck? What? And I'm tripping out. I'm tripping out. I'm like, no, Lord, I got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who this thing is. It's weird. It's strange. These people are strange. I got to get out of here. And the one thing that the one of the people around me said was, it's okay. She'll come back later, and we'll introduce her to everything, and she'll be fine. She'll be okay. And as soon as I heard that, I said, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I said, Lord, get me out of here. In the name of Jesus, I don't know what's going on, but please get me out of here. And I wake up, and the strangest thing, and this is how I know that this was not just some dream that I was in, because when I woke up, like I said, I fell asleep facing the wall, and on that far wall was an amulet, and an amulet, all an amulet is just uh, a charm of some sort. So it's like this large charm, and in the middle of that charm is it's a large, like, square looking gold charm, and in the middle of that charm was a ruby, and it was inside my wall and glowing. I'm telling you, lad, I'm fully awake at this point. I'm fully awake. I'm in my bed. I see the thing on the wall, and it is glowing, and it is casting light on the objects in my room and on my face. And when I
Wow.
see this thing, I'm like, what are you, what? And I blink a couple times, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, what? And it kind of dissipates into the wall, and it's gone. And so I asked the Lord, I said, what happened? What's going on? What did I open a door? Was I astral? What was going on? And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get much of an answer then. Um, but all I got was that the Lord wanted me to speak about this, because there are actual people that are going to these realms, that are astral projecting or traversing these realms outside of uh outside of God's authority. And that's that is the most dangerous thing that you can do. These occults, I just have an inkling that it's it's something, it's related to something occultic, or some occultic practice or something like that, because when I saw those stages, I just knew that this had something to do with that. And I just couldn't understand for the longest time, until about a month ago. um I was listening to a podcast, and it was about this man who was a believer, um but he would be taken out of his body, and he would be lucid dreaming. And lucid dreaming, all that is just you're able to, instead of uh, you're able to interact with things in the dream. In your dream, you're able to freely move around in the dream, as opposed to someone who is regularly dreaming, and they can't really uh, control what's going on around them.
Right.
So talks about this lucid dreaming, and he says that his realms that he would go to would uh, he would see real people going to these realms and flying around just like he was, and he would interact with these people and these beings, and it was just strange. And what it did, it was just, the reason why I brought that up is because it gave me language for what I had experienced, because I had never experienced things something of that nature. And again, like I said, I've seen all manners of things. The Lord has shown me all manners of spiritual things and concepts, but this was completely different from anything that I've ever experienced. And yeah, so yeah, that's what that was.
Well, I'm curious, how do people go there? Do you think they're like intentionally go there, or the enemy sometimes lures them into that kind of environment when they sleep? Hey, before we get back to the episode, I've interviewed nearly 2,000 people about their supernatural encounters. And after hearing all those stories, I started writing down the most powerful lessons I've learned. And I keep updating these lessons every single day. And guess what? You can read them for absolutely free at godsvoiceday.com/lessons. And now let's get back to the episode.
I believe it's both. I believe that when you dream, we're the most vulnerable to spiritual things. And I believe that I I do think that without a door being opened, or without something being opened somewhere along the line, I don't believe the enemy can just take you out of your body in some sort of way. There has to be some sort of um, agreement there. But a lot of the times we're ignorant of what doors we've opened. So yeah, that could happen. It could happen spontaneously, but I do believe that it's most likely because the door has been opened. And if you're in the occult, if you're practicing occult things and practices and and actively seeking these things out, yeah, absolutely.
What is the biggest danger, do you think, of going to these realms? Can you lose your life and not return back to your body?
You know what? I don't doubt that that's a thing. I do think that it is meant to deceive and be deceptive because, like I was mentioning, that the whole air of this dream was, or whatever happened, was welcoming. They were welcoming. They were completely
Hmm.
uh, sweet and nice. It was deceptive. It was deceptive to draw you in and make you want to come back to these places and illegally access these places outside of God. And when you're doing that, that's automatic rebellion and that's
Mm.
automatic witchcraft when you're doing those things. And so you open yourself to all sorts, all manners of spirits and things of that nature. And I've listened to quite a bit of people that gotten out of the occult, and it is those type of spirits are very, very hard to get rid of. And it's not an easy fight when you allow yourself to uh be used by the enemy in that way. It's not an easy fight when you want to get out. And every single testimony I've heard was that it's not an easy fight to get out of those, to remove yourself from those things. So I think it's just a way to introduce people to the idea of ritualistic occult practices and make it normal.
Hmm. Hmm. How long ago, by the way,
Yeah.
this happened to you?
This was in February of this year. So it was earlier this
So it's
year.
very recent. Well,
Yes.
it's interesting how detailed it was.
Yeah.
It's hard to make something like
Yeah.
that up when there's so much detail and so much is happening.
Yeah. Exactly right. And again, like I woke up thinking, "Oh, this is just a dream," until I saw that amulet, and I'm not joking when I tell you this thing was glowing and it was casting a glow on in my room and illuminating things. That amulet or whatever could have been a means to access this spiritual realm,
Interesting.
and it was casting a glow on my room, and that's what made me think, okay, no, this is not just a dream, this is not just a vision, this is something that was real. I went to a different realm, and that was an access point because that it was I've never seen or experienced anything like that.
We got to be so watchful. So many things are after, or I guess the enemy is after us from so many different angles. The dreams,
Absolutely.
you got to, when you think when you go to sleep to rest, you kind of like put your guard down. You think that's where
Right.
you're the safest, but like you said, that's when you're most vulnerable in your sleep.
Absolutely.
And in fact,
Absolutely.
most of the things that happened to me were kind of like in that in between stage. Like I was choked by a demon. I was like half awake, half asleep, and that's where the enemy attacked me the most. And in dreams, yeah, these different things that they do to kind of scare you off, or
Yeah.
night for some reason for a lot of people is probably the toughest thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, in
Absolutely.
closing, Jaynie, for everyone watching and listening, is there anything else you want to say before we disconnect?
I just want to warn the body of Christ, that this stuff is not, it's not make believe, because I feel like the a lot of us are afraid of the spiritual and the supernatural, and that's what keeps us in bondage to fear, to a lot of things. But this stuff is real. The these things are real. These spiritual things are real, and we shouldn't be afraid of them. We should ask God to reveal certain things to us. We should to help. It's not only for us, but it is for His creation, to draw His creation to Him. And so we can't be afraid of the supernatural and the spiritual. We have to seek to understand it and uh, demolish the works of the enemy in every way possible. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If today's episode spoke to you, share with someone who needs to hear it. And if you had a supernatural encounter of your own, I'd love to hear it. Just go to godsvoicetoday.com/call to schedule your call. And I'll see you in the next episode. It should be coming up right here on the screen.